Good evening. This is May 7th, Tuesday. It's Traffic and Safety Commission. We're going to have a roll call. And it's 8:05.
Cuthbertson.
Yes.
DiTomaso.
Yes.
Blaskamp. Little.
Yes.
McMurray.
Yes.
Carl Timmerman.
Here.
Karen Timmerman.
You.
Wagner.
Here.
Chairperson Pincos.
Here. Okay, any amendments to our agenda? Okay, doesn't look like it. Move on to item 4, public comments on agenda items, and there's nobody here to make any comments, which also then goes down to public comments on non-agenda items, and again, nobody is here for any comments. So we're going to go right into the Bike, Pedestrian, and Transit Subcommittee report from Bob.
Thank you, Chairman Pincos. The Bike, Pedestrian, and Transit Subcommittee met on April 25th, and we did have a member of the public present at our meeting. His name is Greg Macek, M-A-C-E-K, and he came to speak with us about two issues. One, he wanted to know the location of bike racks within the village. We referred him to, there's a page that has detail about bike racks and the newer bike racks that were obtained. He also commented about bus stops and bus stop signs for pace within the village, that there were some stops where there were no signs, and there were some stops where the signs were faded. So we said that we would take this on, and we've had some communication with Pace. We were able to get a Pace bus sign at Villa in St. Charles, and so we're going to look at that issue and contact Chris Rose from Pace. We talked about our Bike Month activities tomorrow, and I think Commissioner Little may talk about this as well. There's a walk and roll to school day is tomorrow, and that's being done with the North School PTA. And if anyone is interested and available, I think we would, we'd like to have any help possible to be walking escorts, riding escorts, crossing guards for the students. The main rally point is going to be the Jefferson Pool parking lot.
What time is that, Chairman? Or Commissioner?
We talked a little bit about the Engine Inside movie, which is this coming Thursday. Sorry, say again?
What time is this gathering?
Oh, 7 a.m.
7 a.m.
Is that correct, Commissioner Little? I think we're gathering at 7 a.m.
Yeah, and stepping off at 7:30.
Stepping off at 7:30. So if you're available to help, the more help, the better. Mentioned the Engine Inside. That's a movie. This is a local premiere of the movie. It's a biking movie. It's an excellent movie. And it'll be held at the library in the Orman Room this Thursday, May 9th at 6:30. We're holding a smart cycling class in conjunction with the Parks and Rec Department. That will be at Jefferson Pool parking lot, and that'll be Saturday, May 11th from 12 to 2. And then we're holding our Ride of Silence May 15th. We're gathering at the police department at 7 p.m. And we're hoping that Officer Tim Walsh will be able to give us the great escort that he did last year. And then, just lastly, the VFW reached out to Chief Rivas, and he in turn referred them to us. There'll be a kind of a tentative date, but a bike registration event on the Prairie Path. We've done these, we've kind of assisted the police department in the past to get serial numbers, photographs of the bikes, et cetera. There were other things that we talked about. We got an update from Director Guerra about the Tri-Trail Connector. The section of the Tri-Trail Connector by the Union will not be completed until the Union's finished. That was my understanding. That's what I gathered from him, because it makes no sense to construct it and then have to make modifications. We did attend the Tri-Town YMCA and District 45 Healthy Kids Day, which was held at St. Alexander's from 10 to 11:30. We distributed bike safety material and other items as well. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Any comments? Questions? Okay. Move on to approval of the minutes from April 2nd, 2024. Any comments on the minutes? Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from April 2nd, 2024.
I'll second.
Wagner and D2, so, yes.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Good, approved. Moving on to old business. Item number 898, drive like your kids live here signs. We talked about that a little bit last meeting, and I believe Bob and John, do you have information?
We didn't talk about it last meeting.
Just talk that we were talking about it. I mean, that we're interested in getting it and get the information together.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, we didn't actually, we ran kind of late last meeting because
Yes.
we,
No, totally, but we
Yeah.
wanted to bring it up for this meeting here.
Right.
And with the information. And,
Just a quick note to commissioners, page 18 and beyond in your packet includes some information from multiple commissioners, both sample signs, as well as information on the purchase from last time, which was about 2.5 years ago at this point.
what page? 18?
The memo's on 18, there's nothing of substance there, but 19, 20, and 21.
Are these signs all from the same printing company?
I would have to leave that to the commissioner that provided them to answer.
no, those are just some signs from various places that I came up with, just to give an idea that we can do multiple designs, multiple statements. The other thing I wanted to mention, on page 20, you've got from 2021, the quote. Looks like the signs we had before came from an organization who was charging $7 each. If we print them ourselves, we can get them for about $4 each.
Do we have the availability to print them ourselves?
Well,
How
we
does that
wouldn't
work?
print them, we order them from an individual company,
Okay.
just like campaign trustees when they campaign.
Okay, and do we know how much a sign like that, you said around $4?
Depends on the quantity,
Yes.
the price goes down as the quantity goes up, but when
Obviously.
you get over 100, the price comes down to $3 and change, $4, somewhere in that ballpark.
Do we know what our budget is for this?
That we have
Well,
to discuss.
we do have roughly $2,200. No,
I'm looking it up now, but I don't believe that's
I
true.
thought it was approved for $2,200.
I thought it was back to the normal $500, but I could be wrong. Give me just
Okay,
1 minute. I can look that up while the commissioners discuss.
okay. So we're going to check in on that. Yes, Bob?
So with regards to the signs, the yard signs, this was Jack's idea back when we did it, and we're kind of emulating a program that they had in Lombard. I'm not so sure that this is very effective. We had 100 signs, For a while, I would see them, but I don't see them anymore.
Well,
You
they
know,
were
I think
3
they-
years ago.
I think that, they get dispersed, and then people lose them, discard them.
Yeah, when winter comes.
Right. And I think that a more effective way to promote, I think we're trying to promote people driving slower.
Correct.
And being more safe. I think maybe a bumper sticker would be a better approach. I mean, I think if it was done in conjunction with a program, like, I've been reading about Vision Zero. Vision Zero is it's kind of a safety campaign that's kind of spreading. Kevin may know about it. It's actually started in Sweden. And I think that having a more coordinated campaign and using bumper stickers, I think you can get a lot more, your message can be, if you put them on village vehicles, I think that the message that we're trying to convey to drive safely within the speed limit, I think it might be more effective.
It's an idea. Anybody want to comment on it?
Yeah, I'd love to make a comment. I think that no matter what kind of sign we use, whether it's a yard sign or a bumper sticker or a billboard or a metal sign that we install, it's a sign, and it's not more effective than a speed limit sign telling people that the speed limit is 25 miles an hour, which people generally ignore as they drive on city streets. And I think if we really care about increasing safety for people who are walking or biking or standing or existing in our town, the way that we do that is not by focusing on signs, but by focusing on infrastructure changes that we know change human behavior. So I'm not gonna pitch a fit and yell and scream and cry about signs. If people feel motivated and want to do that, that's lovely. But I don't think that it's as effective as installing bollards to create protected bike lanes, or the paint designs that visually narrow streets, or any of the many other things that we can do that literally cause people to slow down because it feels comfortable to drive at a slower speed and less comfortable to drive at a faster speed. So I don't think that bumper stickers are a more effective sign than a speed limit sign or a yard sign, particularly.
Any more comments?
I'm kind of thinking that with bumper stickers as well being a good idea, it's less focused on the area that we're concerned with, our own village. If public vehicles were to have them on, that's fine, but I think people see a public vehicle, they see a public vehicle. They're not really going to be looking they may look to see where it's from or what division of the department or whatever it is, but I just don't see that being as effective as the signs. I've had a lot of people make comments to me about the signs, and a lot of people were interested, and I see a lot of people had them up. I know of 2 or 3 in my neighborhood alone that are still up, and they're basically ragged. So I'm more lean towards the signs in this program. And yes, infrastructure changes do make a difference, but they're much more difficult to get done. This is a
It's true.
small step. It draws attention to a situation. And our budget certainly doesn't cover infrastructure problems. But I like the idea of continuing with the signs for the yard. If we wanted to divide it into something and try getting some bumper stickers as well, I would not be opposed to that. But I think that, if we want to put them on village vehicles, see how that goes. Personally, I don't think it would be that effective. But we could also hand them out like the yard signs. People could put bumper stickers on their car. They're like, I never put bumper stickers on my car, so it wouldn't work for me anyway.
No?
Is there a difference between bumper sticker versus a window sticker? Because today's cars, most bumpers, and they're all painted surface. It was different back 20 years ago when everybody had a chrome bumper. and the bumper sticker would stick to it. Now everything goes to a painted surface. Is there a difference between a window sticker versus a bumper sticker? Just food for thought, throwing it out there for researching it. Be a lot more visual up in the back window of a car also. When you're sitting in traffic or you're driving, it's more visual level of other cars.
Okay, basically, I think we need to look and see what our actual budget was. It was to my understanding that we were around 2,200. I was told we were going to be kept the same, but as
Yeah, Chairperson Pincos, I can
Yeah.
confirm that the published budget shows $500 for the Traffic and Safety Commission for 2024. I've already reached out to ask if that is accurate, or if it was supposed to be a different number, but was published incorrectly.
Right. So we have to get a verification exactly on that, because that will definitely, if we're at $500, that's a very minimal amount of signs of anything, or infrastructures, or whatever we're doing. So we definitely have to have a verification on that. So,
Well, before we go further, maybe do a consensus that we want to do this or not?
I'm totally, I agree. I just wanted to bring that to the
Yeah.
table so that we could end up understanding what we're working with. Because if we're working with $500, that's a major factor in what we're doing. Because I think last time we got 100 signs, was that correct?
Yes, we got 100 signs.
Signs, and it was $7, and we used $700 out of our fund.
Right.
Okay? I'm going to say.
These are double-sided they came with wires.
With wires, correct. And they look like a nice quality sign, too. However, with that, it would obviously, it was mentioned that the price for a sign is going to depend on the amount of signs we end up getting. And if we come down to getting only a handful, I mean, the budget is going to be a big factor in where we're going with this. So, yes, Bob?
So, Kevin, you said that our budget is $500?
The published village budget for 2024 lists a line item of $500 for the commission, yes.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll have to check into that and stuff. It may be because we didn't end up using it last year. And then what we've been using it for, we haven't been using it really for, because it was basically for somebody to be from the village here.
It was at one point for a secretary, correct?
Yes. Okay, so with that in mind, do we want to continue to discuss it tonight, or would we like to just table it and find out what our real budget is and then bring it up? Yes, Bob?
I'd like to make a motion to table this to our next meeting so we can get clarification on our budget, et cetera.
Right. Anybody want to second that?
I'll
Sure, I'll
second that.
Okay.
She got it first.
Okay.
That's great.
First by Wagner, second by Lee.
Yes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Okay, moving on. Item 899, North Avenue Car Show. This is still on our agenda. I do know the village board did some adjustments that night and was being sent back to the village attorney for those adjustments. I don't know if they have reviewed those or where that's going.
They enacted it.
They did enact
They made
it?
them on the fly, they made the changes, they enacted it that night,
Okay,
and it was effective that day.
yes.
For the commission's reference, there is a copy of the ordinance as adopted on page 23 of the packet.
Oh. was a little more defined than what we originally saw.
Yes.
Yeah, for anybody else who didn't find it, there was a copy of the draft ordinance that was reviewed in the minutes.
Okay. So has anybody been up there at all and see and make a comment on it? Yes, Joy?
Yeah, I've got a couple of comments. Yeah, I've been up there. It's still happening, but it seems to be, Strat seems to be a little bit, trying at least, to be a little bit more controlled as best he can, but that, he's been issued several tickets, I'm told. I talked to Deputy Chief McCann this afternoon. He's been issued a few tickets. It also seems as though his property sale has gone through, and although he hasn't closed yet, that should be happening soon. In fact, Bell Tire is on P&Z's agenda later this week for the changes they want to make to the property to build their building. So my understanding was that he'll be out probably by June 1st. So that particular spot may not be a problem for much longer, just through attrition.
Okay. Thank you. Sergeant, would you like to make any comments?
Yeah, so like he mentioned, he was cited on, let's see, for an event he had on March 30th and April 13th. He was cited with the local ordinance ticket, which the hearing's going to be on June 6th. And it's still going on. The car shows are still going on. I think they haven't had the greatest luck with weather, but he's still having them up there. That is something we heard, that possibly his property is going to be sold by the end of the month. But like I said, he was cited. He did have the events, and they're still kind of ongoing, aside from days where the weather's not that great. On top of the ordinances violations that he was issued, we have our usual traffic control, traffic violations, so that's pretty much it.
Okay. Could you tell me, if possible, is there some type of ordinance on state property with pedestrians in the medians at all?
If they become a hazard, we could do something about it. Otherwise, they're loitering, but we can't do anything about that, so.
Okay,
Like panhandlers, there's nothing we can do. If they become a hazard, we can move them out of the way.
What constitutes a hazard?
Well, on these events, they were running back and forth across traffic, in between traffic, so they were creating hazard for themselves and traffic and emergency vehicles, so. It's not written black and white, this is exactly what it is, but we have to, do what we can, so. On those days that he was cited, it was really bad.
Okay.
What about jaywalking?
Yeah, Jay, are you walking?
Yes, Bob?
I had forwarded to Kevin and to you the sign that I saw. I believe it's in Oak Brook, and they have an ordinance in effect that prohibits people from standing, loitering. It doesn't address panhandlers. I don't think it does anything about panhandlers in the thing. What was that? Did we have a conversation with them at all about that, or did we?
I think they're getting sued because it's.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I think they're either getting sued or were sued over that ordinance because it's unconstitutional.
Okay.
I think about a couple of years ago where we were told no more with panhandlers. We used to be able to get them off the road, not anymore.
Because they enacted that ordinance after that Supreme Court case.
I'm sure they did.
Yeah.
I do remember you giving us and I do remember somebody was gonna look into it. I don't know if it was Kevin or was the village
I think
manager?
we were just gonna look into it to the extent that once we had a copy of that sign, we could have a response, which is exactly what Sergeant Landon just mentioned.
Okay.
It's unconstitutional to prohibit panhandling unless it becomes a hazard or a nuisance.
Okay. Any other comments? Would we like to just leave this on the agenda and just to kind of revisit and see what's happening at the beginning of next month? Since it was mentioned somewhere around June 1st was a closing date on it?
Yeah, I would make a motion to keep it on for one more month.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd second that.
So Carl and John,
I don't know that you necessarily need a
Jack,
motion to keep
yes.
it on, though. Just a point of order.
okay.
Maybe June 11th, yeah.
You need a motion to,
It'll pass,
table it,
yeah,
which
we'd have a
we've already
definite
moved
answer
past.
by
You need
then,
a
our
motion
next
to close
meeting.
it, but just to leave it on, we've never required that before.
Okay, so why don't we just leave it on, then, and we'll just look at it next week, or next meeting coming up in June
That's the 11th, yeah.
It's the 11th.
11th, so.
Already.
Okay. Does anybody have any new business to add? Make comments on?
I do have one item I'd like to discuss with the commission. I've got some very rough paperwork to pass down. Please take one and pass it along. Up in the vicinity of Twin Lakes Park, there is a dead-end section of Princeton Avenue on the northwest corner of the park. You'll see the aerial photograph. It's difficult to make it out, but
It's kind of hidden by the trees there.
it is.
Looks like it becomes a path or something.
Well, it effectively turns into, for all intents and purposes, a private driveway at the south end. Those, really southernmost parcel there, it's no more than 12 feet wide. And then there's parking for Twin Lakes Park, if you can see that on the east half of the right-of-way for a small
see it.
section
Thank you.
of
I've
the
been there.
roadway. The roadway from Belden down to, call it the last large home on the block, 1022, is anywhere typically between 16 and 18 feet wide. And once it gets south of there, I think I mentioned, it is roughly 12 feet wide at that point, although again, it serves one house at that point that isn't even visible, and I believe it's up for sale and probably needs to be demolished. You can see just from Google Street View photo on page 2 what the situation looks like. And for the commission's reference, on page 3, I provided an excerpt of section 14-207 of the village code, which mentions that no parking will be allowed on any vehicle, on any street, less than 19 feet in width as measured in a straight line perpendicular to the curb, from curb to curb. This particular location on Princeton was never specifically codified. We did receive a complaint from a resident in that area regarding parking that overflows the marked parking spaces for the park and results in a very narrow roadway, makes it difficult to get through, and asked if we could possibly review the situation. So obviously not an official agenda item, no formal action can be taken on it tonight, but I just wanted to bring it up for the commission's discussion and get feedback from the commission as to whether or not a potential ordinance to restrict parking on the west side of Princeton Avenue from Belden to the south end would be something the commission would be in favor of supporting for recommendation.
Clarify?
So in here, this is like one block west of Ardmore.
That's correct.
This was on our agenda probably about 5 years ago.
Oh, was it?
Yes, because I remember getting out, walking around, looking around and seeing how, how they're walking through there and stuff.
Okay. Do you happen to recall what action or?
I do not remember. It was kind of on our
Any recollection?
list, and
I don't
if I remember parking over there and walking out over there.
I think it was about something else,
Wasn't it
not
about a
this
stop sign over
specifically.
there, or was it?
It had something to do with walking through to the park.
Yeah,
from
something
that
like that,
street.
yeah,
That sounds a little more familiar.
yeah,
Yes, Bob.
Just a question, so this green space,
that's the park.
that's Twin Lakes Park,
That's correct.
and there's like a little bridge that goes over the, yeah,
The
okay.
naturalized area, correct.
Would,
Go ahead.
with just some signage, no parking this side of the street, no parking here to corner be effective?
I think so.
I mean, it's simple, just a couple of signs.
Even though the ordinance does already, though, state that parking is prohibited on streets less than 19 feet in width. Every other such street is specifically listed in the code.
But I mean, how wide is it? It's because where the there are designated parking spots there.
Correct.
Right.
That's another little wrinkle in this, is that the definition of measuring the pavement width for the purposes of parking restrictions doesn't quite lend itself to this situation where the pavement is much wider in the parking area than 18 feet, but, I'm sorry, than 19 feet.
But that's a parking space anyway.
Correct.
Oh, these are 90 degrees from the street, the parking space, because there's a car parked in that
Right.
spot.
That's correct. Correct.
We just stripe it off and with a sign saying park within striped area?
Well, I believe the issue is parking on the west side, which is currently not restricted in any way.
The issue is that when there's soccer practices and games, there's lots of families that are parking over there because the little kids use this field. So if you park in the big parking lot at Twin Lakes Park, then you're taking your chairs and your kids and your snacks and your whatever and trekking it all the way across Twin Lakes to get, like, it's a quarter mile.
So you're saying we need more parking here?
I am not saying we need more parking. I'm saying that that's when it's an issue, is during soccer games and soccer practices. So if you put up signage, probably people will obey the posted signage, but I understand why people are parking there when it's not technically allowed. If there aren't signs that say don't park here, they're gonna keep doing it because that's close to the field.
How many spaces are there here?
I don't know off the top of my head, but just rough count, I would say there's got to be 15 to 20.
I'm sure that one game draws a lot more than
Right, well, each team is 11 kids.
Bumpers that are there.
Yeah. But I'm doing-
Kevin, is it possible to have more parking spots?
I mean, I can certainly suggest that to the Parks and Recreation Department as a response, but that obviously wouldn't be an immediate change.
It also is unlikely because the natural area, the way that it's designed, you would have to pave over the creek that they've got running through there, the way that it runs currently.
I'm just looking at this lower portion
Yeah,
where there's trees.
there's a creek
Is there a creek there?
Yeah.
or a runoff drainage area.
Okay.
Which floods in rain.
Just stripe the parking spot with nice and bold and a few signs.
No, how about a sign that says no on-street parking?
Yep.
Well, that's the question at hand, is that restricting the on-street parking here an ordinance that the commission would consider supporting?
Have we talked to the homeowners?
Other than the complaint that was received, no, but I think it may have predated you. If you'll recall, with North Avenue Townhomes, when the commission and the board were considering parking changes, we dropped a notice to residents there informing them that it was being considered. So some of them did show up to the village board meeting. I would recommend we do the same thing here if and when the commission decides to have a larger discussion on this.
So that is a fire hydrant on the left side of the screen, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, that's a question. Ed?
Yeah.
Yes, sorry. If this becomes we assign a number to this to consider at the next meeting, I would hope that the village does contact all the residents over there to get their feedback, only because I'm thinking back some years ago with Grant Street, when we had one resident who complained, and nobody else on that street had an issue with it.
Right.
So I want to make sure that, and I'm not saying that there's not an issue, I'm not saying that this one particular resident doesn't have, an actual grievance. We really need to make sure all the residents up there have the opportunity to comment on this before we make a change.
I agree with that.
I agree 100%.
Sounds good.
Question for Kevin. So which resident is complaining? I wasn't quite sure.
I'd rather not say. I don't
Okay.
like to point those specifics out unless the resident themselves attends one of these meetings or puts it in writing.
Okay.
They were invited to be here tonight. I do
Could
have-
we-
Now, does Princeton curl around like this?
No, dead dense.
I'm asking Kevin. Does Princeton curl around like this? Is that,
No, what you're looking at is a Google map
Okay.
screenshot. The right-of-way does not get any wider as it gets to the south end. It's the same
I'm
way.
sorry, say it again?
The right-of-way does not get any wider than it is at, at Belden, and it is not village property continuing to the west. It just, Google has chosen to label it as
Okay, so
Princeton
that's
Avenue.
someone's driveway,
That's a private driveway.
private driveway. And just so I understand, so residents are parking on both sides of the street, is that correct?
That's my understanding. I've not had a chance to be out there
Okay.
during these times. I believe it's not typically during, normal working hours, is what I understand. We will try and get some photographs or ask the resident who reached out for some photographs of the issues when this is a problem.
Okay.
I have a question. Are there any parking restrictions on Belden?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I can certainly look that up very quickly. I believe so.
So, Kevin, you did make the comment that they are parking on both sides of the street?
That's my understanding. I can't confirm that personally.
Okay. So, one is just an enforcement problem if they're parking on the fire hydrant side of the street.
Is there any
That's not
signage?
technically prohibited, though.
It's only within certain feet of the fire hydrant.
Correct.
Well, usually in Villa Park, the streets that have, where the water main is and the fire hydrants are, is no parking. That's pretty much covers everything, doesn't it?
When parking is prohibited on one side of the street only, then it is almost always the fire hydrant side.
Right.
But in this instance, there is no village-wide ordinance that says you can't park on the side of a street that has a fire hydrant on it. There's only the ordinance that's
Per street.
correct. There's the ordinance that covers the width of the street, which we've never, I guess I should say, staff has never fallen back on as a sole, I guess a blanket ordinance. That's used as a guide to determine which streets need to be specifically added to the code. There's obviously the ordinance that you can't park within so many feet of a fire hydrant. I believe it's 15 feet in either direction. But there is no ordinance on the books that prohibits parking on the entire side of a street where the fire hydrants are, if that makes sense.
Well, my understanding was always that the street with the water main, throughout town, was set up that way. Now, you're telling me it's street by street.
Correct. It's always been street by street.
Oh.
It's just that the question of which side is the water main on was always the underlying reason for choosing the east, west side, north, south side when those specific streets were added to the code.
Okay. So nothing has been done here. So I'm wondering what the residents do say when they have company. I always look at a neighborhood, it's like if I was gonna buy a house, I wouldn't buy this one because nobody can park here,
Right.
And if we do anything here, are we gonna get more complaints about, well, where are my companies supposed to park?
Well, I think that would, sorry, go ahead. I was saying, if staff provides notice to the neighborhood of any potential consideration, then obviously they would have the opportunity to come and voice those concerns.
Can we, why don't we make this an item to be added on, and here, listen to what I'm thinking of, and then see is there a way that we can invite
The residents?
seven residents that live there to come to our next meeting. And hopefully the one that is really requesting some action to be done does come and express what the situation is so we can get a better view of what's going on here before, as you said, we don't want to just go ahead and put some signs up, but we can't do anything really except put it on the agenda for next time as a new agenda item.
I do have kind of one more question before we go further on that.
Sure.
That property at the end of the street, Kevin, you said it's for sale?
It was for sale at one point. It's boarded up. I don't believe it's been inhabited in some time, but I don't know if it's actually still for sale or what the situation is there.
Well, is this something the Parks Department could look into as a place for potential parking?
I can suggest it, but again, that would obviously require a whole lot of expense in terms of buying it and improving it and whatnot. So again, that's not something that would happen quickly.
No, I get that, but it's something to think about for future.
Yeah, I'll pass along. I'll be honest, I don't think that's gonna happen, but I don't think it hurts to mention it.
Joe, you asking a comment?
Yeah, Sergeant, do you have any experience with this?
I can't even picture the river right now.
You wanna see- I figured it was a long shot, but I agree, we should send a letter to the 7 residents or 6 residents, whatever it is.
7, well, no, no.
7, maybe even include the 2 on
I
Belden.
would think we should include the people on Belden.
I was just gonna say, yeah, because it doesn't look like there's any curbs on Belden either.
No,
No.
most of
And,
the streets up there don't have curbs.
right, and it looks like they've created, at least in this one spot, they've created
Parking.
their own on-street parking on their
It looks
parkway.
like the house next to them, from what I can see, did the same thing in front of their house. too.
Right.
Took the parkway and made it into a place to park cars.
So I could certainly see this being an issue for homeowners. Like you said, in regard to having company over or whatever.
Yeah, and just to follow up on an earlier question, I can confirm that there are no parking restrictions on Belden explicitly in the code either. I guess I should also clarify, there's no parking restrictions on Princeton north of Belden at all. So much of this area was never, for some reason or another, never included in the list of streets where parking is prohibited in the code.
And it looks like Princeton is wider.
Okay.
than Belden.
So, do we have somebody that wants to make a motion that,
I'll make it.
I'll second.
Is Di Tomaso and Carl Timmerman?
Yep, yes. So we're gonna make it item number 900, and it would be,
Still need to vote on the motion, though. Or I guess.
do we wanna name it first and then?
Oh, sure.
And then name it, parking restrictions on Princeton, south of Belden. And so we had somebody do the motion.
Yeah, Joey was first, Carl was the second, so you just need to
Okay.
vote.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any nays? Okay, so we'll put that on for next session. And is there a way that we can get a hold of these residents,
We
or?
would typically just drop paper flyers on their doors,
Okay,
which don't always receive attention. A lot of people think it's junk mail. We do everything we can to make it obvious that it's official, but that doesn't always happen. Alternatively, we can send USPS, but we tend not to go that route just because postage is so expensive now.
Well, I'll give you the $5.
Well, I guess maybe that's something I need to clarify, is I guess I was, in my mind, we were reaching out not just to, obviously, the south block of Princeton, but also to Belden, certainly, and then maybe I just assumed we were also talking about Princeton north of Belden as well.
Joey could knock on doors.
Yeah, let's wait for that to happen.
I think it would be better to cover a larger area up there rather than a smaller area, so. Agreed. We can obviously print letters for far more
Yeah.
cost effectively than we can mail them out. So we'll get that done. We'll try and get a draft ordinance prepared.
Kevin, why don't we have curbs or sidewalks up there?
The area never had them, and for the longest time, the village's policy was that areas with unimproved cross-section streets like this would be returned to that condition when road improvements took place. In fact, the village undertook road improvements here in this entire area in 2015, and at that time, the policy was still the case. We typically don't do exactly that anymore. Now we at least put in a ribbon curb on streets of this type to keep the pavement intact and let it,
Doesn't it
last.
also increase the property values?
Theoretically,
These are nice houses up here.
there are a lot of nice homes up here, absolutely. But I can only comment on things of the past, or I can only mention how things were done in the past.
Do they have sewer and water up there? Well, they
Yes.
obviously have water because they got, yeah. Okay. I didn't know if they were running off septic tanks or something.
I guess to be clear, there are a couple homes in the area that are still on well and septic, but everybody has water and sewer available.
So they're not using the Park District porta potties?
I can't tell you they're not, but they have the option of doing something else.
All right, so we just added that on, and now we're, moving on to item 9, which is new, wait, we just did new business, I'm sorry. Going to item 10, commissioners' comments. Ed, since you, were able to make it, we're gonna start with you.
No comments.
Okay, moving on down the line. Tricia?
Okay, so I didn't really get a chance to introduce myself last time because we had a really busy agenda. So I do want to say, fundamentally, I'm coming from a place that if we just cookie cutter apply the same code to how we make every decision in Villa Park about our traffic and safety, we're going to end up with streets that all look the same and as if they all have the same purpose. And I really believe that individual streets in our town should have different primary purposes. For example, I live on the 400 block of North Yale Avenue, and I think the primary purpose of the block where I live is for the use and enjoyment of people who live in and around the 400 block of North Yale Avenue. So I want that block to be about my neighbor who wants to garden in her front garden beds, the kids who want to ride bikes on their driveway, the neighbors who are pet owners to be able to safely walk their dogs. The most important thing that that street provides is the opportunity for residents who live there to enjoy living there. And I think that, for example, Villa between Wildwood and the Prairie Path, the primary purpose of that street should be to encourage shopping and dining and economic growth in our town, right? A different location, different purpose for the street. And I believe that all of the decisions that we make about modifications and signage and changes in resurfacing as we go forward really should look at what is the primary purpose of the street, what are we doing here, and make decisions with different goals in mind. Not every street is going to be for the same thing in our town. And as a side note to that, literally every purpose we could possibly have, besides moving traffic as quickly as possible, is contrary to the purpose of moving traffic as quickly as possible. And a lot of the designs that are, you know, the default designs are all about moving traffic as quickly as possible. But I don't think that we're best served by saying, you know, we default to moving traffic as quickly as possible. I think that we are best served by individually looking at the purpose of each street as we make changes, as we move forward. Okay, that's me. I'm done.
Okay.
Can I say something?
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the things I see with that, which I get it, because everybody, you know, has got different lifestyles, different things where they live. But when you set a precedence, well, they did it for them over there. I'm on Ardmore, I want the same thing. You run into that, they start throwing stones back and forth. Well, how come they got it and I can't have it? Well, they're on a residential side street that's a dead end, or it just goes into a pool or something, you know. Versus, hey, this is a major thoroughfare, then it becomes unfair, then, you know, where's the line on the sand on what's right and what's wrong? You run into that. But I think we've always tried to look at it as individuals, you know, to best serve the people, what we're doing.
Yeah, and you can hear that in this conversation about what should we do with parking on North Princeton up there, that, you know, that what matters to the residents and the individuals who are on that street really does matter and makes a difference. But also, I don't think that we should do things as uniformly as possible. moves us in a positive direction. And I think it's very possible that like good-hearted, well-meaning, careful, intentional people will have different ideas about what the best primary purpose of an individual street would be. But I don't think that we move forward into the 21st century by just doing things the way that we've done them since the 1960s.
Okay, I have a comment.
Sure.
Thank you. This commission is basically for traffic and safety,
Absolutely.
okay? We don't look at trying to move traffic quickly as possible through our town. We try to make the traffic move as smoothly through our town as possible, as safely through our town as possible. And I think that is our number one goal that we have to look at to our commission. Okay, and that also pertains to anything in reference to pedestrian sidewalks that are in the right-of-way of the village, and that's where our jurisdictions basically go. In reference to looking at the possibility of doing something different to a street, that does not fall into our realm at all. All we can do is look at what we have ordinance for, what we can add to the ordinance to help, as I just said, move traffic through quickly, safely, make the pedestrians safe, and that's how we have to look at it. There are other commissions, I believe, and I don't know how it goes with the streets for redevelopment stuff. I think that just falls into the board.
Correct.
That falls into the village board in reference to. So when it gets to the individuality of the different streets, that would have to be brought up with the village board and talk to them in reference to it. But it's not in our scope in reference to.
Right, but they are taking their cues and their guidance as far as what is best for traffic and safety in Villa Park from this commission.
That is correct, again, with the traffic flow moving as smoothly, as safely as possible through our town.
Right, and what I'm trying to communicate, in so many words, as clearly as possible, is moving motor vehicles without any, as efficiently as possible, moving motor vehicles as efficiently as possible is contrary to the safety and use of, in all other ways of the road, right? If there are no inhibitions to vehicles moving as smoothly as possible, then people will speed on 25-mile-an-hour streets. If there's no inhibitions to vehicles moving as swiftly as possible, you can't intermingle bicycles with motor vehicle traffic. That there are just physics makes it so that motor vehicles moving above a specific speed are not safe for children to walk around. So just saying the purpose of every street is to move motor vehicles makes it so that we aren't able to consider as effectively the use and safety of other kinds of traffic.
And I'm not disagreeing with you because you said other kinds of traffic, which then comes into the situation with bicycles. And I don't know, is there anything else that could go on a street, Kevin, that I'm not thinking of at the moment?
Pedestrians?
Well, I mean pedestrians, well, yeah, but they're not
Yeah.
supposedly.
Skateboards, yeah.
Pedestrians are not supposed to basically
Horses,
walk down the
dogs that
street
play.
because they have crosswalks and they have designated areas where they cross, but they are not supposed to be, I guess you could say if they were walking down the street, maybe loitering down the street type situation in reference to it. So,
But if we're moving every vehicle in Villa Park as efficiently as possible, then how are children supposed to cross to be able to get to school? Just The fact of the matter is we have a lot of 25-mile-an-hour streets in town, a lot of them, where that speed limit is consistently not recognized by motor vehicle traffic. It's just not, because of the way that we have designed our streetscapes. The speed limit is not recognized. Even though it's there, the majority of the traffic doesn't drive at 25 miles an hour. And if every motor vehicle was driving at 25, then yes, it would be safe for bicyclists. It would be safe for pedestrians crossing the street, including those in wheelchairs, including those who are children. But when you design everything wide and flat and straight so that traffic can move efficiently, then people move efficiently at 30, 35, 40 miles an hour instead. And then it's not safe for pedestrians crossing.
I think what you're kind of roping in a lot of stuff under one umbrella type. And I think we have to look at each individual situation that you want to bring up. And then we have to then analyze it from that point, from the tools that we have available, looking again at the situation of that we're traffic and safety in reference to it. We can't sit there and say, well, we think we should have a roundabout in the middle of the street, okay? Because that has to go in front of the boards for their ideas in reference to it and see if they have, we don't have the ideas about funding and stuff. We could maybe sit there and say that would be a great spot to have one, but we can't really look at it in reference to that. We need a lot more. You need, what's the study I'm trying to think of for stop signs?
Warrant study?
The warrant study.
I think there's also, you could look at the MUTCD, which has many, many ways of calming traffic.
Right.
But now, if I may-
I'm not trying to say that we should do any specific thing right this moment. I'm not saying that we should, jump up and throw roundabouts or traffic signals.
I get what you're trying
around
to
a
say.
village.
You want us to look at things from a perspective that includes other things than efficiency.
Other things than efficiency of motor vehicles. Yeah, absolutely.
We have to look at all vehicles, pedestrian, bicycle, if you want motorcycles, electric vehicles, electric bikes are becoming a big hazard,
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of things you can do, but I think we take each situation at its place, okay? Now, is it realistic to say, well, we can alter the terrain right here and now and spend thousands, possibly millions of dollars for this one purpose at this time? It's not practical, is it?
No, absolutely
Okay.
not.
But I like what you're saying, that, we can consider other aspects of things, and you are, that's part of the debate. You're gonna be doing that.
Yeah.
We all do it.
Yeah.
So it's,
So basically, I just want you to understand what our real scenario is, what we can do. We're going to look at each individual situation, as we're going to look at the parking scenario up there on Princeton and Belden and around Twin Lakes Park.
Right.
And stuff. So we will take that in and then have discussions on it and then follow where we can put our, what do you want to say, the,
Individual personality.
well, yeah, but the limits of what we can end up doing. And
Right.
then again, has to do with traffic and safety in reference to
and
it.
sometimes, we don't necessarily like it, but it's best to do nothing.
So, okay.
Over the years, I know you're relatively recent to this committee, but there's over many years, many of us have gone and talked to the residents and looked at each individual item, from their sidewalks to their parkways to what's going on their street. We've talked to the residents, and we have actually done, and trying to give individual, we do our best to do it, and try and look at every single situation one at a time and
I think that there's a lot of outside pressure that says, the highway traffic manual, design manual says, do things this way, and the path of least resistance is to just, every
Sarge.
lane is the 33 feet. Everything is built to the same specifications. Everything is equal between every block, right? I think that is the path of of least resistance, but I also think that fundamentally different streets in Villa Park have different character, and different streets in Villa Park have different purposes. And I don't think that that doing everything with the cookie cutter approach works. That
What I'm trying to say is, we don't usually do always the cookie cutter as you are using the term in reference to it. We do discuss what is in our realm of our jurisdiction that we can end up doing. And I think, since this, I believe, is your second commissioner.
I'm a baby. I just got here.
Okay, so give us, give it a few months here, and, you get to debate in reference to, not debate, or comment on all the situations that are coming through. I just want you to understand that
There's nobody here.
we have a specific realm of where we can end up going. And it might be somewhat cookie cutter type as you look at it, but,
Sometimes that's for legal reasons.
and there's obviously a lot of other scenarios. So I appreciate your comments. So, and I don't want to cut you off, but,
That's right. I'm done.
okay. Carl?
I was just wondering, I have an ID that just expired, and are we doing anything with our commission IDs?
I thought I had sent an email or mentioned, this is going back probably more than a year at this point, if people who need a new ID could email me. I might be better off just emailing everybody and asking you to respond. Would that work?
Yes. Sure.
Okay. I guess maybe easier question, is there anybody who has a current ID?
I need one.
Mine expired on the 30th.
Mine's been expired probably at least 4 to 5 years.
I will coordinate with the staff as appropriate to find out about somewhere.
From way
You
back.
still get the pictures
We used to
taken at the
have like a
police station,
handwriting
or
expired
at the
on the
library,
30th too.
Yeah,
at the police station.
police station.
I believe
Possibly. They've gone to allowing some people to take their own photos and just send them in. So that way they can, they don't have to have you in the police station at a particular date and
just-
time.
Do they
Mail it
still
to
have
us.
commissioner ID cards?
Let me find that out too, because I don't actually
Because
know.
I thought
Maybe they
during
could
the
just send us a
pandemic,
sticker.
they kind of discontinued
Yeah.
it because nobody was around, because mine expired during it, and they just said, just wait until
That's what happened with me.
You know
Yeah,
what, though, they've been talking, the board's been talking about a handbook for commissioners. And in that handbook, it actually says, go to the police department to get your
That's where I got my
commission
last
ID.
one, yeah.
So there's a mention of it in the handbook they are in the process of creating. Now, that doesn't
right
mean.
process, so it's not available, they're creating one, it's
right.
not officially,
No,
But when you go to the police department to get your ID renewed, the right person has to be there.
right.
It has to be that person. They used to have one of those cameras like they have at the DMV. I don't know if they still do.
No, they just take the picture from your old,
Yeah, I think that's what happened. with
just
my-
basically run through a little piece of plastic and
But,
put
you
it
know,
on
I
there.
think we, as we were talking about, we go and we talk to people. They may ask for identification, and I don't blame them.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's no problem. I'll coordinate that.
Can we get badges and guns too?
I'll settle for a badge. I'm not the right person.
Badge is good.
Go for it, car with lights, okay.
You know,
Carol,
Radio
are you
Shack,
done?
just a second, Radio Shack used to have these helmets with little flashing lights.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
That was Kmart with flashing blue light.
Oh, okay.
All right.
No, that's all I
Would
have.
we have to make an appointment with the police department? That'd be something also for going through that.
Let me get through the first steps of
let's
finding out
find
if
out
they're
what
even
they're doing first,
auditing.
and then we'll go from there.
So,
Yeah.
yes, I'm finished.
I've got nothing.
Okay. Karen,
Nothing.
Bob,
I appreciated Commissioner Little's comments. I would just mention that the village did adopt a complete streets policy. And complete streets says, when you reconstruct a street or you do a project, you should take into consideration all road users. And all road users are cars, bicyclists, pedestrians. So it's not really odd for us to say, we should adhere to our complete streets policy. The other thing I would mention is that there's a bill in the Illinois General Assembly. I don't think it's passed yet. It's House Bill 3530, and it amends the Illinois Vehicle Code to change the default speed limit from 30 to 20 miles per hour.
20?
Yeah, the default, from 30 to 20.
35, 30?
From 30 miles per hour to 20 miles per hour. That's House Bill 3530. I don't think it's passed yet. I could be wrong, but I know there was some discussion about it.
Well, I know there's a couple of municipalities in the area that do have a 20-mile-an-hour limit for the most part, and I don't see it obeyed very well.
No, frankly, it's
The
not.
other question I have is, and I'm sorry that Sergeant Landa left, I encountered somebody who has a electric scooter. He lives in Lombard. He was riding his electric scooter with a helmet. The scooter has lights on it. He was riding it in the street, and he was directed by the Lombard police officer that he should be on the sidewalk. And this electric scooter can go up to 30 miles per hour. And I thought that was odd. I was going to look through their code to see if they have something specific, but I thought that was interesting. The other thing, I do have a question. I know that we kind of partnered with the Village of Addison on a Safe Routes to School application. Do we know, were they successful, or?
Yeah, I guess, I don't believe the village was necessarily involved in the application per se, but I believe Addison applied for and received those funds themselves. They just asked for us to participate on a very small section that's located in Villa Park.
For sidewalks?
Correct.
Gotcha,
And
okay.
I believe there was an intergovernmental agreement adopted by the board, I think,
Okay,
1 or 2 meetings ago.
okay,
Maybe more than that, but I believe the village did enter into that agreement.
okay. And that's all I have.
And I thought, and Kevin might be able to answer that, in reference to the bicycle that was instructed to go on the sidewalk.
No, this is an e-scooter, an electric scooter, not a bicycle.
Okay, e-scooter. But either way, I thought there was an ordinance saying something about motorized vehicle, I want to say vehicles, but it's not vehicles, but motorized, what's another word they had?
Well, a bicycle is a vehicle, and so is a scooter.
It is, okay.
Yeah.
But anyways, it was a weird saying, but whatever it was, but if the motorized vehicle went over like 10 miles an hour, it was not allowed to be on
The sidewalk?
the sidewalk.
That's what I thought. I thought, this is really odd. They're directing him off the street onto the sidewalk so
Right,
he
no.
can jeopardize pedestrians.
Right, no,
Yeah.
I think,
So-
yeah. I think there is an ordinance or something in reference
Yeah,
to it, but.
I'm gonna do
it
some
might be
research on my
for
own and see what I can
village
find.
And city.
Well, as I recall, and this is going ways back, but bicycles are supposed to be on the street, not the
That's
sidewalks.
what I always thought.
Correct.
Yeah, that's
And
what I
would
was
imagine
taught.
a scooter, well, what does that mean, Bob?
I think it means that one of the little addendums they usually have on something when safe to
With
do so.
respect to bicycles, there's kind of a gray area. Some municipalities have have ordinances about bicycles not allowed on the sidewalks. But children, let's say children under 12, they need to be trained and ready to bike on the street. And some of them are not, and that's why they bike on the sidewalk. So it's a gray area. I've had this discussion with many people. There's no law that says you cannot be on the sidewalk, but it's a matter of etiquette. You should really, if you're approaching a pedestrian and you're on a bicycle and you need to be on the sidewalk, you should dismount
And walk your bike.
and walk the bike. And I was just in Glen Ellen, and they have decals in their business area that tells people to dismount. I'll send it to the commission.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Anything else, Bob?
I know I'm done, thank you.
Okay. Joey?
Yeah, I've got a couple things. We didn't, we haven't talked anymore about the crossings at the Prairie Path. we kind of dropped.
I apologize.
No,
I had
it's-
started moving on, putting something together, and I never did quite finish it.
I just wanted to bring that back up again. When we talk about things like speed limits on the side streets and stuff like that, yeah, I get it. I don't disagree with you whatsoever. The trouble is, they're not obeying 25. What makes you think they'll obey 20? And the reality is, we don't have the police officers that have enough time to sit on side streets and do radar for 25 miles an hour.
Do
We
you want
just
an
don't have 'em.
answer?
Yeah,
Yeah, so
I'm curious.
the answer is, if you build a street that feels comfortable to drive 30, people drive 30. If you build a street that feels uncomfortable to drive 30, then people will drive slower than 30.
No, that isn't necessarily true.
you drive in the city much?
Testing yourself.
Okay, I think we're getting into a personal
Yeah,
comments here, and let's move on to that
okay,
scenario.
all right, fair enough.
As I wanted to say, we'll take it up as each individual incident that is brought forward
Right.
for us.
Okay.
Okay?
The other thing I wanted to bring up is, the rec center is probably gonna be open early fall, I'm thinking. And do we want to be looking at the traffic situation there ahead of time,
Excellent point.
Yeah, I would.
as opposed to having it dropped on us August 1st?
Is there some kind of plan that, because we haven't seen anything.
I haven't seen or heard anything.
I would think
Are they just gonna let
sitting in
stuff?
the engineering department.
Yeah, so I believe, and I'd have to go back and confirm this, I don't believe the Traffic and Safety Commission ever did review a traffic impact study for the proposed union development. Staff had sent it back to them for comment. This was probably 2, if not 3 years ago at this point, and it was never at a point where we were comfortable bringing it forward. I believe there was a more recent submittal of it, but let me go back and confirm that. And if there is, then I can obviously provide that for the commission's discussion and review.
And what was that for the rec center?
So the village coordinated with, again, please don't quote me on this, let me confirm. I believe the village coordinated to have one traffic study completed in combination that covered both the proposed union multi-use development and the proposed, the Lions Park Community Center that's currently under construction. But regardless of whether I'm right on that or not, there is a traffic impact study in existence out there. Let me check on the current status, see what the scope of it is, and then we can have a conversation about discussing that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just suggesting we start putting it on our agenda for discussion and information, and so that we're not doing this all in one meeting at the last minute.
I think that's reasonable.
Now, what about that apartment complex that they keep talking about?
That's
There's
the union.
Gotta be something.
union?
That is the union?
Yes.
Okay. I wasn't clear on that.
And that may have, I would imagine that the traffic study might change a little bit, because as of the last board meeting, they want to, the public parking is going to be ground level instead of underground.
Correct.
So that may change the access points and things like that. I'm not sure. But that may have been different from a year ago when they were first talking about that stuff, so.
Sure.
So let him look into it and see what he's got, and we can go from there. Otherwise, we're just speculating.
Yeah, that's,
Okay. Thank you. And I do not have any additional comments, so we will, and we don't have any.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
Well, before we can do that officially, Kevin, do you have any more?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I apologize.
I do have one comment, just to reiterate my email from today, for those of you who didn't receive it or don't have email. Statements of economic interest are no longer required of commissioners of the Traffic and Safety Commission.
Oh, I did mine for nothing then.
For those of you that were even able to get in, yes, thank you for submitting, but unfortunately it wasn't even necessary.
I
And
did say.
for those of you who,
Commissioners not necessarily here to do it, I just, unless specified by the village, so it did not have to be.
Well, there's actually a statute that covers what commissions need them and which ones don't,
Right.
and we don't meet the criteria.
There's two of us don't meet it, okay? So
We don't have to do that
we
anymore?
don't have to do it
That's
anymore.
right.
And basically, that was sent, because I, of course, had a lot of other things going on. I tried to do it the weekend just before, and I could not get in. And basically, the village sent a letter over to DuPage County and said that our commission and one other commission does not have to do it, so they locked us out and just left it as that.
Well, that was after I did
Mine
mine
was
then.
actually submitted.
Mine went
But
through.
this is,
mine
this
was
is Thursday before the deadline, which was on a Tuesday.
In other words, if you procrastinated, you didn't have to do yours.
Pays off.
Okay, Bob?
But you
Do
do
you
have
have
to do
anything you
the
wanna
Open
say?
Meetings Act.
He wanted to
Oh.
close the meeting.
If we've concluded the agenda,
Yes.
and I apologize to Kevin, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
And I
Do we have a second?
Seconded.
Okay,
So who's the second?
Carl.
Okay.
And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? And we'll move on, and thank you.